Welcome to Unbind with Bindable. I'm your host, Jocelyn Getson, Chief Growth Officer at Bindable. Well, the push to innovate both insurance distribution and the products themselves is really a global effort. And while in some cases there is some regionality considerations, consumer behavior, et cetera, that does drive a bit of that, I do think the exposure of what's going on in the rest of the world and looking beyond the country you operate in is really critical to seeing how we can innovate more within our own regions. And joining us today is a perfect person for this topic, Dr. Robin Kiera, the author of his new book, Selling More Through Attention Hacking, and founder of Digitalscouting, which is a global consulting firm focused on supporting insurance professionals by identifying technology, products, and marketing trends around the world. Based in Germany with a fantastic view, Dr. Kiera has the bird's eye view of the evolution of insurance and InsurTech across the globe for many years now. In this session, Dr. Kiera is going to share his insights into global insurance trends, focusing on customer experience, product trends, and easing the pain and potentially expense of customer acquisition. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. And I mean, anyone who knows you has watched some of your media, and I think you're very accustomed to being on the other side, being the one asking the questions. So, which you do such a great job at bringing amazing energy. So I'm feeling a little bit of pressure today, but excited to have you on. So,
no worry.
Oh, well, good, thank you. I need that. I always start at the beginning, and I'd love to better understand what led you to your current role. Did you always envision writing a book about attention hacking and running a company like Digitalscouting?
Well, sorry. First of all, this is not the view of our headquarters. Probably this is like a post-IPO headquarters site. It's a hotel in Cologne. So we love our offices too, but we are not there yet. So I think important to know is I have been an insurance sales agent. I worked for a large blue carrier from Germany with headquarters in Munich. I'm not saying any names. And I sold insurance on the street or actually in the house. I sat on the couches in the living room trying to sell insurance policies like 1 million years ago when there were still dinosaurs running around. But and to answer your question for the book is I experienced a lot of things that I was really a little bit outrageous, that you had decision makers saying, oh, we go digital, and my phone back in the day did not even have the internet, even though there were phones that had the internet. Or there were some things in the sales department where I was like, is that really so good for the client? Right. Don't get me wrong, I love salespeople. There are a lot of honest people out there that try to help their customers and to build up success for themselves and their families, agents, brokers, tied and untied. But the motivation for the book, and that's why the book is actually has full of funny stories, is I share a lot of funny stories out of my time as a sales agent. But I'm not an author. Yeah, I wrote a book, but actually we help clients around the world modernizing sales and marketing. But I don't want to get into a sales pitch over here.
Well, no, I mean, it really is so relevant, though. I mean, and you've coined this term attention hacking, yeah. And I think we're all very aware of the fact that insurance is typically sold, not bought. No one's waking up in the morning to buy insurance, but I do think you have this sort of novel approach. It comes across as maybe how we can look at things differently around how we're using social media. So how do you think that applies, and how do you think especially carriers, incumbents should be looking at attention hacking or leveraging that in their business?
Well, I think we should look at the industry as if we would be aliens coming on the planet. And if we would be aliens, we would ask some weird questions. For example, we would ask the decision makers in the insurance industry, you're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars in marketing and still nobody likes you. I would argue maybe we do something wrong because others are spending way less and they're liked more. Isn't it ironic that people are standing in line for a technical device they're going to throw away in 2 years, but not for their pension plan or their 401k they have for the next 40 years? I think, and we need to be self-critical, I think we do a very, 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 very bad job at marketing because we have this hypothesis, our products are being sold, not bought. I think if we would do a better job, then our products would be bought. Maybe not standing in line, but at least, when I called my clients and said, hey, here's Robin, I want to have a consulting meeting with you. I want to talk about your insurance. I mean, like, nobody liked that. let's go to a place where people actually like talking to their agent broker, or that are excited in the morning when they say, today I'm getting insured.
Right. It's that balance of retaining the education component, which, you know, people fall asleep when they start hearing the details sometimes, but leveraging the fun part of that, and that the fact that you're right, it is going to be something that's going to help you retire. It is going to help you in your worst time. And so focusing on how that can be, you know, the hook.
Yeah.
But it's still, I mean, it's a big mountain to climb. I mean, especially in the US, where I feel like you know, it's been a little behind the times, especially around digital adoption. And when I look to UK, EU, you know, APAC, anywhere, you're really seeing a lot more innovation when it comes to, and even trends when it comes to the digital insurance option. So why do you think that is, the different rates and paces that we're seeing in different countries?
I personally, it's always very funny when you talk with people from other ecosystems, because the conversation always goes like this. You guys are so advanced, we're so backward. If we would now talk like in a different context, I would say, oh my God, we are so backward, you're so forward. I think it's not the question of which ecosystem or market is advanced and which one has to catch up. I think in every market you have first movers and people who do something, and you have those who are laggards. I think all around the world. And I think the people that are pushing the boundaries of the industry, you know, we see, listen, and hear of. So I think you have examples in all countries, or even in countries where you would say, well, they're a little bit behind. But if you look, for example, in the African fintech system, there are, you know, some finance systems super advanced, paying with the phone before there was even like all these fintech apps. So I think we can get inspired from all around the world with cases that make sense. Sometimes it makes more sense to, you know, have a look at a mutual insurer, for example, 5,000 kilometers or 5,000 miles away, instead of the other insurer across the road, because maybe he or she has more to do with your situation. So I think we can learn from everything around the world. But why these differences are, you know, historical reasons. But again, let me share you one concrete story about one use case that really impressed me. It's like a small insurer for classical cars, and classical cars in the German-speaking countries here are driven mostly by old white men. I mean, it's a prejudice, but if you go to a rally, it really looks like it. And when, you know, there was a young woman taking over this insurer, and when she did, she said, we make a digital company out of it, attention hacking. And all people said, it's 50-plus-year-old white man. Why should they, you know, that it's not digital, it's not new. But she did it actually. And so I think you can transform despite prejudices all around the world.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, you said a couple things in there that I think really stood out. One of them being the word like inspiration, you know, to be inspired by others. And I think that's what I find sometimes lacking is that we do, I think, get complacent with, you know, we're going to have to sell it, and these are our channels, and we can try this and innovate a little here and test this for 6 months. But it's really just to be inspired and see that vision and hold on to it. And I think if you look at any industry, even, you know, outside of insurance, the most successful entrepreneurs, they're not focusing on that. They are looking outside and being inspired from other industries and from other companies. And you know, when you're working with a partner who's looking to expand their footprint, whether that's to another country within the EU, or whether that's an EU-based company coming to the US, et cetera, what's your advice to them? Is it to do what they've done? Is it to adapt right away? I mean, how should that expansion plan, what should that maybe look like? What's the opportunity there?
So I would differentiate between B2C and B2B. So if you're in the B2C space, to come from a different country to anywhere and to think you can conquer that market, I think that's super hard. You can try, but I think, to be quite honest, the Lemonade failed in Germany. I mean, I'm a big fan of Lemonade, and shout out to Daniel and Yael and all of them. But I think they terribly failed over here because they tried to do everything themselves. What I would argue is, why don't you just buy something? Why don't you buy an organization if you are in the B2C space with 100,000 clients, 200,000 clients, depending on the market, and then get your technology in there and try. So you have a start point to get there's a sentence in Germany: the first million is the hardest. I mean, the first 100,000 customers are the hardest. Why not just go out and buy a local player who does a good job? So I think that's what I always would argue to. Yeah, let's go try out to do it ourselves. But if we notice after very quickly we cannot, let's just buy something. It's always a question of buy and make. And if you go to in the B2B space into a different country, the magic is, especially in the insurance industry, to have persons on the ground. Get your guy or girl in UK, in Dubai, who knows the market for 20, 30 years or 10 years, he or she, and then go out there and work together with them. So I think a door opener is super important. I always say the German-speaking or Central European insurance industries, they're a little bit like families, once you're in, it's great. You're one of theirs and they do everything for you. Sometimes you fight, but it happens in the best families. But it's super hard to enter these closed circles, super hard. It takes years. And to get somebody on board who can shortcut that is, I think, super, super important. But also, that's like the behind the scenes part. The other part is, I would really also let people know. Again, super problem in the insurance industry. We do great things, but we don't talk about it. So if you enter a market, you need to really talk about it, and don't choose like marketing tools that are 1,000,000 years old, but think about how can we do it differently. Another interesting case is the German family insurance. Before their IPO, they said, if we want to beat the Allianz, we need to do things differently. So they consciously decided not to go with certain partners, but go with new ones. And I think that's their success shows also that that's the way to go when you enter a new market.
Yeah, I like that, the door opener, because it's true. I mean, there's so much localization of a product when it's on the D2C side, how you say things, how you do things. So a journey that works over here, a customer journey, can, and you also, of course, mentioned Lemonade, and you're certainly recognized as somebody who very early on, just saw the impact that they would have on the industry. And why did they stay out? Yeah, that'd be great.
I can tell a funny story. Yeah. Even I think shortly after they launched or before they launched, I met Daniel in I know after they showed the first video, I met Daniel in San Francisco, and it was really impressive what they achieved there. And I said, can't I invest? That was like shortly before their first big round, and he was like very politely saying, no, Robin, that's okay. And then they did like a multi-million-dollar investment. I was like, okay, he doesn't need my few $1,000, but it would have probably been a nice thing. No, they really shook up, and they were really at the right time, right place, and they did like a very impressive move they did the first years for sure. So that's a very actually role model, I think.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And there's also, I mean, and of course it really did, as you said, it paid off across the board, especially in the US. What are some examples? Because there are also some companies that have a fantastic product or concept, and sometimes they're ahead of their time, or they just couldn't find that market fit. I call them a field of dreams. There's the movie, right? Build it and they will come, and sometimes no one shows up, right? And in that case, do you have examples of companies? I mean, do you see products that you're like, these are fantastic, and just can't quite find their fit or their niche? I mean, you already said Lemonade, great in the US, but didn't do as well in Germany. So maybe that's one.
So I see several companies in the telematics space that are struggling. I know of a few cases in the UK that were ahead of their time. And again, it's always easy to judge from the outside. Right. I didn't build a multi-billion-dollar evaluated company, so who am I to judge anything? But to look out from the outside at certain telematics companies, I think that was sometimes a little early. They had device problems, data problems. I think slowly with Tesla attacking that field, and by the way, other auto manufacturers also catching up. That's now maybe a little bit riper. I also know of some super early IoT companies. It struggled terribly, but now it's going better. Yeah, I think it's also important if you choose a partner, or if you're looking for new technology, to really look on the one hand, are they innovative? That's interesting, but are they also in 5 years still around? And so I think if insurers really are looking for tech partners, they're really looking also for not only like, are they the best solution, but are they long-term there? And I think that's super important for having a partner there.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's also, it's lining up that distribution too at the beginning and sometimes working backwards, right? It's like, if you have this customer base, you already have, XYZ type of data, and maybe you're enhancing that with telematics or outside data science, AI, whatever that might be. But I think sometimes it's like we innovate in a room on a whiteboard and not always, with the customer, with the opportunity through distribution. I mean, I know in other parts of the world, like through telcos and utilities, insurance is sold, but not so much in the US, not as aggressively outside of warranties and some of those type of products. But, when we work with partners, sometimes it really is that backwards flow of who is your market? And then let's align the product versus trying to, square peg that approach. Cool. And I'd love to understand better, like, are there some companies that you're watching when a company jumps out at you? Is it usually because of the tech or the product, or is it that market fit? And are there some that are really on your radar right now that you're working closely with that you can mention?
Well, sometimes companies contact us and say, have a look at our strategy or our market entry somewhere, and I'm looking through the material or talk to them, the decision makers in the company, and I'm like, these guys don't even know how cool they are, and I'm like, oh my god, you're so good in product, so good in tech, as I can evaluate, but so horrible at communicating it. That's what sometimes strikes my eye. And I would always say, if you have a great product person in your company, if you have a great tech person in your company, you need to have at least the same brilliant marketing and communication person there. Yes, we look at different companies, and that. But it's always very hard to, in order to make a very good judgment, you need to look at all the, profit loss statements, if available, to really look deep dive at the product, because there's a lot of, air out there, of things that are not working so great. Yeah, I think those are those who we all know and that are super successful also in funding, or even incumbents doing a great job. They are very good at three things: at product, at technology, and at marketing. Yeah.
Yeah. And what type of marketing? So when you say attention hacking, I see how you market yourself, which is, using really all the platforms, TikTok, which is finally, we're seeing more adoption of, but how should a direct to consumer product be marketing? Is it all platforms? Is it looking at demographics and working backwards? I mean, when you look at product marketing. I can tell you
a story of I think it's Wayne Gretzky, when they asked him, why are you so good? And he said, and the funny thing is, they said it in a moment in his career when he was not so good anymore. The journalist said something, you're not fast, you're not young, why are you still so good? And then he always says, then he said, that's the funny thing is, I'm not there where the puck is or the ball is, I'm there where it's going to be, And I think when we talk about selling and how are very good sales men and women doing it in our industry, they're not only there where the clients currently are and their needs are, but they see the future need of clients and customers. And I think we as an industry should do that too. Or if you go to social media or to marketing at all, let's not be where we are right now, but always look what's next, and also invest significantly. Come on. Recently, insurer, actually, funnily enough, from this city, big one, announced now they are also on Facebook. In 2022, when all numbers show it's imploding, there are agencies that sell these poor insurers, then go there, it's a safe bet, nobody got fired to open a Facebook page in 2015, and I'm getting a little bit angry because I think that's it's unfair, and that's an example how not to do it. An example is you need to be like in sports when you want to get fit, you need to be in training, and so also in marketing you need to be in training. Never be in. The measure is not on which channels are we, the measure is where is the client and where's the attention of our target group. And that's all what matters. If we find out our target group likes reading messages carved in stone, I'm the first person that urges you to send stone plates. But currently that's not. Currently that's it's social video, it's a little bit of TikTok, depending on the demographic. B2C, yes, B2B, I'm not sure yet. And if you see something like that, if you catch yourself saying phrases like, not sure if that's going to prevail, maybe it's a fad, you're wrong. You're on the wrong side of history. And I urge you to really force yourself to try these things out yourself. And if something is popping, do not do the mistake in providing the new channel to an intern or a person that's, young and probably going to figure it out. I always ask C-suits, especially decision makers in sales, I always say, your most important sales channel, would you give that to an intern? And then they say no. Would you give it to a junior person? They say no. I would give it to my best person. I say, yeah. And that's why you need to do these new social media channels. You need to give it to the best people and not to your interns or young people working at the company.
This gets me excited because I love the energy, because I feel like that's, I mean, I said it earlier, but that's, I feel like what's been missing. And there's been a fear, I even know in my own career, sometimes hiring people who think differently, right? Who come in the room and it's like, I want to shake it up, but not only do I want to shake it up, I want to take that ball and I like want to run and cross the finish line. Like I want to see things through, and I'm okay executing well, but failing, because there's a difference. You can execute well and it's not successful, but it was still a successful findings and the proof points. And I think you're right. I feel like if executives are just in a room talking to each other and they don't have either other executives looking out or getting excited, and because I'm on TikTok, I'm looking around, that's where I want to learn about new stuff. So I'm not even being marketed to maybe directly, but indirectly, because that's where I get inspiration. It gets back, I think, to finding that fire, right? Like within the organization of someone who wants to think different.
It's leadership. It's leadership in technology to find a great new technology, and it's leadership in all sorts. So if the CEO does not support it or does not live it, it's a problem. Or the corresponding C-suite. But if the C-suite does, or the general manager, then he or she, and leads with by example. It sounds now very cheesy and very theoretically, right. But if I see cases that are going through the roof and other cases that are not, it's all the leadership. And by the way, it's not a question of age. I know 65, 67-year-old
I agree with that.
industry leaders that are fully on fire, understand it, and do the hard decisions, and others in their 40s don't. So it's not.
I totally agree with that. And it's funny seeing that, because I do think it's fantastic, the diversity that we're starting to see in our industry. And I think there's, there's a lot of ageism. You have some brilliant 20-year-olds, but you absolutely have 70-year-old board members who can come in and they're the ones pushing and seeing. And so it really can come from anywhere. Getting the diversity in the room is important, but you're absolutely right on every level that you need to, it can come from any source, but it takes somebody championing it at a high level to really drive the rest of the organization to see it and grab it. Yeah.
And let's talk about the why. Why is it important? Why is it important to, always be fit? It's important even in an industry that, makes a lot of money. Then sometimes they say to me, Robin, we grew 0.25% over market average. And that was the moment when they actually want that I hug them and, say, yes, you're a great person. But I always say, okay, 0.25% is great, but what do you have against 25%?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's what the stuff we do, or and if I had a little bit of problem with weight during COVID, yeah, I mean, who didn't?
Who didn't?
And then I asked my personal trainer, I said, are there some secrets? Tell me the secrets how to look good and be fit. And she said, Robin, the secret is the following: do what the people that are fit did in order to get fit. And it's like, I'm like, yeah, but where's the secret? I mean, there is no secret. It's hard work. It's the same as we want to become like brands that sell phones or drinks that are super popular. Then we need to do the stuff they do. For example, one of the greatest cases, I think, in marketing is Red Bull, the energy drink.
Yeah.
They started content marketing even before the word content marketing existed. They invented sports, not because they were interested in the sport, but to have actually media to show their brand and lifestyle. And if a very not tasty drink can do it, why can we not do it as an industry? So I think there's a lot to be learned, but to convince a maybe a little bit conservative C-suite that we now need to do jumping contests, I think that's going to be a hard pitch, but sooner or later we can do these things. Because one thing I want to mention, we as insurance industry, we have one advantage over a lot of other industries, including banking. We still have a working business model. We still are making a lot of money. And when we route this a little bit better, then I think we can make it happen that people actually wake up in the morning and say, Chaka, today it's going to be a life insurance.
Love it. It gets me, and this is fantastic. It gets me excited because I think you're right. And so now I have to ask the crystal ball question. I mean, where do you see us as an industry, or what do you think insurance? I mean, I think you just said it, but what do you think that will look like in 10 or 25 years? Is it products are different? We're covered under a bubble of protection. I mean, hardening markets. What do you see
I see two scenarios, two extreme ones. One scenario is the bad one, where like all the naysayers win. What is going to happen there? You have a few years of runway left, where it is like it always has been, and then other industries are going to strip us of our profit, and we are just becoming risk carriers for embedded insurance, for the car manufacturers, for the e-commerce sites, for the the big tech companies. I think that's a real danger if we don't do our homework. And on the other hand, when we become parts of the daily life of our customers, as in agents, brokers, or even as large organizations, and with also with content, with marketing and digital services, we didn't talk so much about that. Then we can expand, and I can assure you, I've been working in companies that decrease and in companies that increase. It's always more fun to work in an industry that's conquering the world.
I love it. Yep. No, it's great. And it's been fantastic talking to you today. And I just want to thank you for joining me today on Unbind, and thank the audience for the support, feedback, questions that you've been sending. And everyone, pick up a copy of the book, Selling More Through Attention Hacking. And if you're not already, make sure you're following Dr. Robin Kiera on all social media channels. So much energy and excitement, and I always walk away wanting to conquer the world. So I appreciate what you bring to the industry in that sense, and your ideas and thought leadership. So please reach out to either of us directly on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for the invitation.